What is up, fam? Welcome back to another Spectators Casted game. Today's gonna be a really good one, guys. I hope you're all excited to watch this run through and let's just say conversation about Age of Empires. One thing I want to address this game is defender's advantage. Give some pointers and talk about the bonuses and the minuses of being a defender, essentially. Let's quickly introduce the players and jump into it. Lethal in the southeastern, or more like the eastern corner of the map, is playing as the melee, as blue as well. Padallero, my Mexican amigo, probably in the cartel. He's playing as the Franks in the color red. Doing a great job at scouting, guys. Let's notice that off the bat. Look at that. Boom. Got like half the map already. Done deal. Done deal. Just needs this black spot, and he already knows where to wall. Boom, 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 boom. Goes this way, goes that way, guys. Just standard gameplay. He's doing 6 on sheep. Continuing scouting. No deer lures. Lethal, however, is also scouting quite a bit. Not bad. Has already a quarter of the map revealed. Knows his walling points. If he were to turtle and do a defensive strategy, which we will see what he does in a second. Standard play, just 6 on sheep, guys. 3 on wood. That is the standard gameplay. And then your next one goes on a boar. Just for you noobs out there, gonna give you some tips of how usually people play the game as well as pros play the game. You can do different things here and there, but ooh, dead villager. But that is usually the standard that everyone does. Padallero loses a villager. Guys, remember, I am in 1300 ELO. 8 on his rhino. And Lethal gets his under the TC, which is a perfect spot. Remember, guys, let this die and rot. It's already dead. Just let it decay. And take your villagers and send them to the rhino. Don't bother with this, because you lose more food not collecting this, if that makes sense. Usually you can delay your rhino lure and utilize the food, but I sometimes am lazy at the game and I just don't care and kill the rhino right away. Lethal went for an early wall. Usually after 8 you go for berries or deer, depending on the situation, but Lethal is deciding to early wall. He is, what it looks like, is going for a turtle strategy. Little house cap there, just because he had to walk such a distance to build his first house. Could have strategically built it here and go here, but he didn't want this villager to go back and forth 20 times. Luring in his second rhino. Red already has his second rhino lured in. He's building his windmill. Guys, remember, 1 tile away is the ideal thing to do. Because if someone attacks your bushes, you can just put a wall, and they're safe and secure. You can leave 4 villagers inside and keep gathering. He sends another 1 on wood, so he did 2 on wood instead of 3. Notice the rhino lures, guys. This right here isn't ideal. You want your rhino to be under TC. I know I sound like a broken record, but that's the most important thing. He is luring his gazelle, however, and gazelle, they're a little bit more of a pain in the butt to lure. I've noticed from my experience of playing the video game that gazelles take a little more clicking, a little more patience, because for some reason they are more stubborn than deer in the game. Deers are fairly simple and basic to lure under your town center. Looks like Lethal is also luring his first gazelle in, so he's not bothering to pretty much explore anything outside his realm. He has this part of the map already secured. He's continuing to wall. He has 4, now 5 on wood. AFKing villagers. Yep, idle villagers, guys. Not a good thing ever. You want to be consistent and get better at your multitasking. 4 on bushes, on berries. Just don't forget those snaz berries, because next you know Willy Wonka from the chocolate factory is playing AoE too. He does his gazelle lure flawlessly. Divides the villagers 5 and 5, so he has 10 up in this town center. He's dropping a barracks. He is AFK with the scout, so a little bit of, poor management with multitasking, but that's okay. He's gonna go lure his second. Gazelle is building that barracks, guys, just because most likely in 1v1s, unless you're really good and you can wall off on time, you want to have access to some military troop type. I know in the back of my mind that what are Franks good at? Franks are a cavalry civ, and ideally a Frankish player will scout rush you, unless he has some fast castle drop strategy and pumps out those axemen and a few knights or something. But that's ideally what to expect if you're playing a 1v1 against the Franks. Guys, I used to do this back in the day a lot. I used to split my lumber camps. I do not do that anymore. It's actually a very good strategy because you have more access to different wood lines. You can wall off easier. You can, if one gets raided, the other one's safe. You can quickly wall off. It's just, I think, more convenient in general as a whole. Red has found blue. He sees the barracks. Red is building the stable right off the bat. He's already dropping farms. Remember, Franks have free loom research and free, whatchamacallit. They get loom and all the farm upgrades for free. Essentially, horse collars, free loom. And loom is not free, guys. That's in the town center. That requires 50 gold. I don't think any civ besides one has loom for free. So horse collar is free. Bonus 75 food for the farms. Blue's having a fun time luring his gazelle. He sees red scouts, so he's like, I'm gonna go pick on it a little bit. He's lured. Blue has lured all of his gazelle. This is bad, guys. You do not want to do this. I have a trouble sometimes of managing my villagers. There should be at least 8 to 9 here, so I could have pulled 3 or 4. And look at that. Red scout rush is coming in. Blue already has 2 spearmen on the field, so he read it really well. Mostly walled off, guys. This is called the turtle strategy, where you wall off in a circular kind of square circle shape around your base. He is forcing this marketplace pretty quickly. The idea is to go fast castle, but look at all these idle villagers. Rip. And here goes down this little battle, guys. First Clash of Titans. Come on, Lethal, get a scout kill. There are so many low scouts. Boom, 2 drop. The other 2 are weak. And this is so bad. I didn't realize how long these were AFK for. That is pretty rough. A lot of resources lost, guys. Lethal still doesn't know what to do with these villagers. Just send a few over here. This got quickly walled off. He's starting to seed farms. He was probably just waiting for the horse collar upgrade. Unfortunately, we do not have that for free. Red is still pushing, guys. He's still adding those scouts. Looks like he stopped building them. He has 3 left. Red is fully walled on his western side of the map, and he's just trying to finish walling the eastern side. Red is obviously going to keep poking around, guys. Once you build military in the feudal age or any age, you want to utilize it defensively if you're getting attacked, or aggressively. And depending on the circumstance, sometimes it's always better to go aggressive, because you can disorientate your opponent. You can get into his economy, especially if your opponent is the aggressor and he doesn't expect you to go aggressive. Sometimes you could catch him off guard and kill a few villagers and turn the tide of a game. Look at Red, guys. He has quite a bit of farms, 11 farms. Great bonus for the Franks. He has 6 villagers in gold. He still has 9 on wood and 2 on berries. Could definitely have 2 more, guys. Ideally 4 is sufficient. He's trying to look for a way in. Now Red's scouting. Blue is scouting Red. He has another scout up here. He's retreating with his scouts right on time because Lethal sent his spearmen. And obviously I should have played smarter and just sent them here because I knew he was going to escape. But I had the scout and I went this way. I guess I wasn't sure maybe if this was a clear spot or not, but it didn't matter. I was just making sure that he wasn't there anymore. And Blue is starting to go into Red's base, guys. One thing you're gonna notice this game is that Red, he's gonna be fairly actually, you know what, I'm not gonna say anything because that's gonna spoil the game. Let's just watch and go on a second to second basis, pretty much chronologically. Lethal is scouting red, but he decides to dip because he's like, I don't want to lose my scout. I still have half of the map uncovered. There's really nothing for me to see in there. I know he's going to the Castle Age. They should have been pulled back already, but nope. Lethal is letting them kumbaya in the eastern corner of the map. You know, guys are probably looking for a bottle of rum on some island that doesn't exist on the Arabia map. 4 on berries, about to finish up, guys. He still has 3 on gold. Could go to the Castle Age, but unfortunately Lethal is twerking because he is participating in Amateur Hour. Forgot his second building. You need 2 buildings, guys: a marketplace, blacksmith, or an archery range and a stable. 2 feudal age buildings allows you to go to the Castle Age. He has double bed axe researching. Finally clicked on the Castle Age, and check this out, guys. Franks is already halfway to the Castle Age. He is building archers. One way to deal with spearmen is building archers. Excuse me, guys. Archers are a great solution. Skirmishers not so much, because as the melee, I most likely will not be building any archers at all. No cavalry archers, no archers, most likely no skirmishers. Against the Franks, you don't want to build skirmishers. He pops out 2 knights, your whole skirmisher army's gone. Melee, of course, are deleting some walls, are a kind of a naval cavalry civ, but they're mostly into the elephants, guys. They have a few elephant options. Oh, Lethal did advance earlier to the Castle Age, so very close, guys, back to back. I guess I was earlier. I thought I was later. Rip, I don't really remember this game at this point. Red is still scouting, has quite a few locations of relics, and he's continuing his villager production. He does have 2 archers chilling in the back, and he's gonna have to start making decisions, guys. You can't drop a TC, so what do? Fast imp? Low key, guys. 24-minute imp is definitely possible if he could drop 2 buildings. He goes for a monastery first. He does have 2 stables, so he can start pumping out knights like bread and butter if he really wanted to. Lethal already researched pikemen. Lethal's dropping 1 TC, 2 TCs. He's going savage eco, guys. He wants to take advantage of economy. Lethal has most of the map already scouted. Definitely has 4 relics on the map. Does get house capped. Lethal's like, okay, he's not attacking me. I want to go see what he's up to, so I'm just going to go attack his buildings. If he's building paladins, knights, I should be good, right? You know? Pikemen, counter knights. Red is like, alright, I'm just going to go. I don't need to touch that. That's a slaughterhouse, so he's just going to go pick around, see what he can do. Notice Lethal's AFK villagers. He does know Lethal's building this TC. And he will find out eventually once he goes to this point that Lethal is on 3 TCs. Let's take a quick look. Red is dropping a 2nd TC. He's dropping a 3rd TC, and he did drop that 3rd TC. I didn't notice. I guess right after he dropped the monastery. And he is pumping out those knights, guys. Definitely did delay his night timing. I guess that was maybe to his advantage. But I feel like earlier nights would have been more efficient because I decided not to build too much military and go eco right away. And knights could have probably hindered my economy. He could have sent 1 knight and affected these 4 or 5 villagers that were here and delayed certain town centers that were being built outside of the base, which is actually both of them in this case. Lethal is continuing scouting. Lethal finds Red's 2 sheep, guys. Notice this. This didn't really ruin Red's game. He's actually, or was actually, doing better than Lethal. Now he is. The scores are jumping, guys, eye to eye. But he managed, and Lethal just finds his 2 sheep and decides to, you know, scout with them. At this point, you could still use the sheep for food, but at this point, ideally, you'd want to transition to farms and not waste your time. But trust me, guys, I've used sheep at 40 minutes. Hunting, usually I do it any time of the game, especially if you're the Mongols. Hunt is always OP. there have been games on certain maps where I hunted the whole game. A little bit of poking around. Red does notice Lethal's town center. Lethal converted a knight. We did not catch that, guys. Oh, never mind. We did not convert a knight. We're building our own knights. Huh. That's later in the game we start converting knights. Red is collecting the relics, guys. I do notice that a relic disappears and I'm like, oh snap, Red's taking the relics. I gotta counterattack sooner than later. Boom. Blue's moving out with a few knights. No researches, guys. Just a little bit of defense researches on the military troops. Blue is definitely trying to secure some land and just go out. And Red, guys, look at this. He is chilling. He has like 8, 9 knights banked, ready to get aggressive. So he's playing the patient game. He's definitely still doing well in his eco. He has all of his town centers, supplying villagers. Blue is slowly securing relics. He's starting to secure this relic. Blue is building another scout. Not building enough villagers, guys. You want to have villagers queued up. There's no reason not to. 800 food and counting. Still has a few villagers queued up now, which is great, but this is not gonna last long, guys. Red sends a monk. Stable is gonna start getting repaired. Look at this micromanagement. Perfect. Picks the knight that wasn't getting converted, so there's a 1 out of 3 chance that we would have not gotten converted, I guess, and that's what happened. So Blue does have a little bit of military. He is trying to take down the stable, which would hinder Red's army supply just a little bit, but Red decides to drop these knights out and get aggressive. Red also has no researches on his knights, which isn't a big deal. I feel like researches after at least like 7 to 8 knights is okay to start doing, or you could do your feudal age researches if you have an excess amount of resources. That's another good time frame to do that. But Blue is trying to secure the relics, and unfortunately this one is gone. He already took it out. This one is still here. Red is, guys, he's getting defensive. He's like, maybe Blue's gonna attack us and kill us. Well, let's take a quick look at this Clash of Titans, guys. Red decides to retreat. I mean, look at that. 17 knights, defensive castle, guys. Franks have a bonus. Their castles are a bit cheaper. They're like 488 or something, which is a little cheaper than 650. 14 pikemen, guys. A little bit research. Ideally, 17 knights would deal with 14 pikemen because they are just a meteor troop, you know, guys. Pikemen counter, but if you have more numbers of knights, you can clean up a group of pikemen, essentially. But it would be at a heavy cost because he is losing a lot more resources, guys. That's the game that's played with counters. You can defeat your counter, but is it worth it if you lose most of your army? Sometimes it is, because if you defeat the army, that's when the person resigns and quits the game. Red is starting to poke around. He's going for the attack upgrades first. Ideally, I used to do attack upgrades first all the time. No, Blue, pay attention. Blue is getting raided, but the thing is, Red is going to start raiding Blue's economy. He gets 2 villagers, and Blue reacts perfectly, but no, Blue locked the gate. This is one thing I made a mistake on. I should have locked the gate. I should have trapped him in here, but I didn't do that, which was unfortunate. Could have split my army up just to build a little blockade, and Red would have lost more troops. But so far, guys, the trade isn't too bad. You know, he disrupted my economy for a little bit. I've lost like 2 or 3 villagers. And let's look at Red's knight count. Guys, 60 knights. So this is the defender's advantage I was talking about. Lethal defensively protects his economy. He loses 2 villagers. Starts reinforcing his walls. But that's okay and all. Where did Red win in this situation? Red wins because attacker's advantage is he's disrupting my economy, guys. Remember, if you have 30 idle villagers, That's hundreds of resources a second being delayed, if that makes sense. Like, maybe not hundreds, but essentially you're going to lose hundreds of resources in just a minute of delay. You're going to lose villagers. So, depending on how many knights he loses, sometimes the attacker always wins, sometimes he always loses, sometimes it's a bit of both. Usually disrupting the economy is more efficient for the attacker. So, there are advantages, guys. As a defender, I protected myself well, and my economy wasn't totally destroyed, but I did lose a few villagers, and 2 town centers were idle. The attacker, however, had an advantage, killed some villagers, but unfortunately, after disrupting the economy, he stuck around too long and lost around 10 knights plus minus, and that's a very heavy economical cost, guys. 60 food, boom, that's already 600 food down the drain. So was the damage sufficient? Was it profitable, essentially? There are, guys, also advantages for the defender. He can see his army and economy all at the same time. An attacker has to focus between economy and the aggressive side of things. So you're on 2 points of the map. That takes a lot more practice, multitasking, playing, and efficiency. Red is effectively healing his knights. I feel like he's probably feeling pressured, even though he's on his 3rd castle. This guy's a savage. In his circumstance, knights and paladins are great. And Cavalier, he's researching Cavalier right now. He's pumping out his knights. But I would start dropping down those axemen. Why not? Guys, this is a lack of, I don't know, maybe knowledge. I am in 1300 ELO, so maybe there's just not that many effective strategies, or just lack of understanding in the game, or maybe he was just pressured and it didn't click. I've done that where I don't do something and then it clicks after the game, after I won or lost, and I'm like, oh, that's what I should have done. And he is trying to counter my pikemen with 2-handed swordmen. Guys, that is a waste in my opinion. You have 3 castles, axemen have up to 5 range. They are perfect. You don't need to research a whole new troop type when you have axemen, guys. He is researching champion, and remember, axemen are solid, they're strong. Axemen counter almost all the infantry in the game besides Teutonic Knights. Teutonic Knights wreck axemen because axemen only do 1 damage. Teutonic Knights have a lot of defense. Let's look at Lethal's Wall of China. He's starting to go for a 2nd layer around his little turtle, initially his turtle wall, which is still sealed off pretty well. He drops his 1st castle, he buys conscription, he is at 200 pop, floating a lot of gold, a little bit of food in the bank, buying his economical researches, getting chemistry, buying stone shaft. Some people don't buy the last economical items because they're not that important, but I did it because I could care less. Look at this guy, Rambo Jambo, guys. This guy is Paul Bunyan. He's planning to deforestate this whole patch. Red is looking for an opening. He wants to get aggressive. He sees Blue's score. There probably is some pressure in his mind that, oh man, Blue's doing great, but why is Blue's score escalated? Guys, look at the population difference. Blue has 200 pop, Red is at 165. You don't stop, guys. You keep producing. He does have economy. He only has 1 barracks, unfortunately, so he could build more barracks. He just lost 2 Cavaliers, not that bad. Has his Cavaliers researched fairly well. He decided not to go for Paladin. I guess he's transitioning, thinking, oh, I don't need Paladin. I'm not going to invest too much into it. Let's take a quick look at the middle, guys. Red is disrupting his castle. He is going forward with his men, clearing up his monks, his churchgoers, followers of Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, they were at the wrong time and wrong place. See them in heaven. And look, guys, he delays a castle. He's getting aggressive against the 2nd castle. This is the advantage of, guys, of cavalry. Lethal's army is just walking back and forth, back and forth. Halberdier are slow. You could always outrun them, so you don't necessarily have to lose your army. But now Red is getting aggressive, guys. 1st Clash of Titans of the game. in the Imperial Age. Let's see what he does. He decides to try and take out the trebuchets, but then he retreats. That was a mistake. He could have left like three or four cavalry, and that would have gotten the job done without losing all of them. So Red is bringing in his champions to counter Lethal's halberdier, but Lethal already has battle elephants to counter Red's champions. So Lethal already expected a counter, whether it was Axemen or the champions. Red is trying to go around with his cavaliers and take down the siege to protect his castles. But look at these 3 battle elephants. They're putting in the work, guys. They're taking care of these champions. He's trying to get these bombard cannons, guys. He's trying to get the trebuchets, but it's at such a heavy cost. It's not really efficient. He killed 1 or 2 bombard cannons. Lethal has more. Lethal's dropping a forward castle. Cleans up all the cavaliers, guys. Rip, GG, well played. The whole army gets slaughtered. Red is dropping points. He is losing all his men. He is having Lethal trail of years, guys, all the way to the other side of the map, essentially, with just 1 cavalier. That's really nice for him. Lethal should have just paid attention and left 2 or 3 halberdier to finish up clearing him up. But now it's too late, guys. Lethal's pumping out battle elephants, and they're just not battle elephants. They're almost fully researched elephants. They have 14+4 attack. They're elite. I'm pretty sure he's still lacking a defensive upgrade, but most likely they're fully researched. I wouldn't be building a padded armor unless I misclicked that. And unless I fully researched everything. Lethal's already dropping a bombard tower. He's going aggressive, guys. GG, well played. Red calls GG, guys. Let's take a quick look at the map. 182 for Lethal, pumping out siege, leaving that space. 122 for Red, guys. So many resources. He does not know what to do. He doesn't have the military production, guys. He was trying to build a counter off of 1 barracks. That's a huge mistake. Economy, great, guys. Red did great. Could have not delayed his military so much in the castle age. He had that advantage, but he didn't do it. He decided to go build a monastery, castle. He was floating those resources for whatever reason, but GG well played. 4 TCs for him, 3 defensive castles. Already destroyed quite a few there. And Lethal never finished this wall, but at this point all the battle was happening here, and if Lethal wanted to, he could have went all in with those siege weapons as soon as they came out, and Red would have been forced to pull back unless he somehow creeped into Lethal's economy and tried to do the damage, which could essentially turn into a base trade scenario, which you don't see those too often, but they do happen. Most of the time they happen in StarCraft 2, and when they happen, I'm always rooting for a nice base trade, like where there's no economy and just a few soldiers and they gotta micro it out. Those are very fun to watch, but we're on Age of Empires, so let's just focus on that. This is a whole, so this kind of stuff isn't good to have, guys. If you fully walled, you make sure it's fully walled, because down the road, if you're playing a late game and there's back and forth and he just sends a few scouts in here, Hussar, it's a nightmare to deal with. Bomber towers are going up, guys. So as we noticed in this game, when the attacker was aggressive, he had the advantage of messing with our economy, idling villagers, guys. This whole game, from feudal age to imperial age, I had villagers idled, town centers fully garrisoned, villagers standing around. He didn't slaughter more than a few handful of villagers, which was great because my army was trackling right behind him and not allowing him to get too aggressive and stick around too long. It wasn't the most effective gameplay from Lethal's side. Could have efficiently moved and maneuvered his troops to get the most out of killing his scouts and knights, but at the end of the day, he survived and did win the game, which is good. The defender's advantage, guys, was the fact that you can see everything in one screen. You can manage your economy and your military, and at the same time, if you have a good trade and you kill most of his military, it sets him behind because he invested a lot of economy into a military that wasn't efficient. You could have gone to the Imperial Age instead. You could have built another town center, had more economy, and win that way. The disadvantage as a defender is, like, obviously, as I said, you lose economy, you can get things disrupted, things can get messy if you're not really good at it or efficient, and your opponent can essentially just wear you out, make you run out of resources, take out too many villagers. And the last thing is, guys, I would like to say, if I don't remember anything else, keep in mind, when you're the attacker, you gotta multitask, focus on two fronts. It's so dangerous to let go of your army for too long and then come back, it's gone. I've done that one too many times, so it just takes practice. But once you get good at it, you usually have the upper hand. Because if your opponent, one more thing, guys, if your opponent, let's say, slaughters your army, but you did some decent economy damage, and he decides to go on the aggressive side. So he went from a defender's advantage to an aggressor. You have time. By the time he walks across the map, you can recuperate, rebuild, pump out some troops, drop a castle, you name it. But in this case, red didn't need to do much. He was secured fairly well on 2 points of the map. These castles were solid. This was the only vulnerable spot. Okay. And later on, he didn't care because he had all this vision. And he figured I wouldn't run through there with a couple halberdier, let alone my elephants. GG, well played, guys. Let's take a quick look at the score. And remember, always focus on getting 200 pop. Economy, a little better. Technology, somewhat better. Society, he had way more castles. We had a better score. Military, we ended up slaughtering his army, so we ended up doing better, guys. We killed 129 troops, especially considering the fact that his cavaliers are way more expensive than the army composition we had until we pumped out battle elephants. Battle elephants are fairly pricey. Let's look at the largest armies, guys. 7453. He stopped building his army. Like I said, guys, if he built those axemen, it would have done a huge deal. Axemen are great. They have range. They counter infantry. They can fare well with other cavalry and elephants. You can like one-shot an elephant with 40 axemen. Talk about a slaughterhouse. If he sends 20 elephants and you just hit and run, you can take out all of them without losing a single troop if you're really good. Economy-wise, guys, really close. We have an advantage here. Boom. He beat us in stone. Boom. He beat us in gold. This is like a balanced economy. I had more main resources. Makes sense. I had halberdier, cost food and wood. He had more knights, gold, and food. So he saturated gold a lot more efficiently than I did. My timings were always better, but he was barely behind. Almost 10 seconds, 9 seconds. Here, around, 13 seconds or whatever that is, 14. Here, boom, 10. It's just a fraction of a time, guys. I barely had advantage with advancing throughout the ages. Castles always had the advantage. Relics always had the advantage. Check this out, guys. Had a great economy. 128, 128. Mirrored me, but unfortunately, I played the better game. I built more military. I had 200 population, and I was more efficient in pumping out siege weapons, guys. Don't ever get intimidated by the score. As we could tell, I had a higher score in the Imperial Age, but in reality, if he pumped out 40 more troops and had some siege, he could have definitely won the game. You just have to play the counter game correctly. And notice how I already countered his counter. I knew that he was going to build axemen, or how I saw his barracks. I'm like, yep, he's going two-handed swordmen into champions. And I already pumped out those elephants in time. And as soon as he had like a little group, which he should have built more barracks. You don't build off one barracks ever, guys. That's a big no-no because it's insufficient. As soon as you get your army wiped out, how do you repopulate, You need tons of production buildings. And I was already just sitting there, boom, waiting with my elephants, guys. 2 solid battles. This was a great game. Hopefully you learned something about defenders' advantage as well as attackers' advantage and the pluses and minuses of both sides of the spectrum. And that, guys, stay lethal. See you next time.